but you play to the last whistle in a 2-score
and crazy
game.
Shit happens.
Exactly. You play to the last whistle in a 2-score game. There are a ton of comments of people thinking I am the biggest moron on planet Earth for the rationale that I just gave you guys.
Hey,
so,
you know what, though? If you know it's rigged, I always say just bet on the rigged side. It's easy. Yeah. Life's easy that way, man. Just bet on the rigged side. Welcome in. It's Behind the Lines, purifying sports betting, winning with SX. I'm Shane Pace here. John Wilson, the great Gosu himself, in the house. Although not in his house. Looks like he's on the road. John, we know you're out in Boston. Hope you're enjoying things there. On today's show, NFL and college football grinds. We look back at some questionable decision-making. Does Pace have his certified doc saying he's not a total degen yet? I don't know. And Kalshi partners with the news. We'll get into that a little later. All right. As we've been doing here on the show, we're changing things up a little bit. We're kicking it off with the grind. John, what have you got for us?
Yeah, so only one pick today for college football. We'll do the playoff games next week. So on this coming Saturday, we have Washington against Boise State in the bucked up LA Bowl, which is played on the same day as the Army-Navy game, which is surely an affront to God. Washington's top 20 in total offense run grading per PFF. Boise's in the bottom 5 nationally in tackle grading. Only thing Boise can do is run the ball. Washington D's top 50 in run defense and top 15 in tackling. I think there's a huge advantage in standard down success rate for Washington in this game, which is picking up big yardage early and avoiding third and longs, obvious pass situations. So I think Boise is going to be playing from behind in this game the entire time. A lot of third and longs. They're bottom 25 in pass blocking, so I think they're going to struggle to stay on the field, keep those drives going. I'd make this Washington minus 11.5. Last week we laid the points with Boise against an overrated UNLV team, but I think this week they're outmatched against the team I have in my top 25 personally. So I'm taking Washington minus 8, and I'd lay anything up to 9.5. Moving on to the NFL, Falcons at the Bucks. These are two offenses that are struggling right now. Outdoor divisional game in September. Bucks on the verge of letting the division slip away. Falcons defense is holding strong last week against Seattle until the dam broke in the second half against a very much superior team to the one that I think they're facing in the Bucks here today. Outdoor divisional games with a spread under a touchdown. 383 and 280 to the under over the last 20 years. That's 58.8%. I think this total should be closer to 41.5, 42. So I am taking the under 44.5 here in the Falcons-Bucks game. Nice. Next, Raiders at the Eagles. Eagles had a chance to all but lock up the division this week against the Chargers and blew it. Fantastic display of coaching malpractice and quarterback incompetence. Jalen Hurts became the first player to turn the ball over twice in the same play since they started tracking play-by-play data in 1978. For what it's worth, though, this has declined in recent years as the odds makers are more aware of the impact of wind, but games with an average wind speed of 10 miles per hour or greater, 656 and 500 over the last 20 years. So that's 56.7%. Total for this game is 38.5. It's very low. But both of these offenses are broken. I honestly just don't have any idea how the Raiders are going to move the ball. So I think we're dodging an explosion from the Eagles offense here. So I'm taking the under 38.5 in this game.
Wow.
Next one, Bills Patriots. So the Bills are actually a 1.5 point favorite as the time we're recording this in Foxborough. Vrabel is one of the all-time great coaches off a bye. His teams are 11-2 straight up with 10 or more days of rest. I believe 9-3 or 10-3 against the spread in those games as well. There's some desperation from the Bills in this game. So if they want a chance of winning the division, they have to win this game. I think McDermott's let himself get out coached in several games this year, and Vrabel with that extra week to prepare, I think has a game plan here, probably slow that Bills offense down, keep them off the field, methodical offensive game on his side. So you might think I'm going with the Patriots here, but really I'm going with the under again. This total is really high and fits the same profile as that Bucks game I gave out earlier. So under 50.5. I think is just a really high game for a really high total for this game, this matchup. So I'm taking the under here.
The Bills are actually one of the most fortunate 9-4 teams you could ever piece together, because if everyone recalls, week 1 against Baltimore was one of the most improbable wins you could ever have in football. There's an element of skill when you come back like that, but there's also an element of luck. And then the 2 pick sixes against Cincinnati, that's insane what happened. Bringing them to 9-4 instead of 7-6. So this is going to be a great game.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and their schedule, I have to mention, before the season, it was one of the easiest, still one of the easier schedules in the NFL. So they are quite fortunate, I think. I agree with that. Next on the docket, Cardinals at Texans. So the Texans coming off a massive road win against the Chiefs, effectively knocked them out of the playoffs, barring some kind of miracle from the Chiefs. Cardinals had a bad loss against the Rams in a divisional game. I don't think either of these things were really that unexpected to me. This Chiefs team's just kind of been middling for months, though they really did give that game away to Houston when they were dominating that second half. The Cardinals are a team that never quits. I know we've made a lot of money betting on them when they've been down in games. So as bad as they are, they tend to keep slinging it until the bitter end. Houston's laying 10 points here, which is a ton of points to cover for a team that just has not been able to put it together offensively for weeks now. Their defense is great, maybe the best in the league, but I like my chances at getting a double-digit backdoor cover with this Cardinals team that just won't stop when they're down. It's difficult to win by margin when your offense is as poor as Houston's is. So I'm taking Arizona plus 10. I actually think this might go even higher. I think the hype train on the Texans has not stopped. I think they're kind of everybody's like sexy contender pick right now. So I think we see a 10.5 here, but I'll take anything at 10 or more. And then finally, there's some really great teaser spots this week. Obviously, they backloaded the schedules with divisional games, which makes for really good teaser spots when you're getting those low totals outdoors in December, narrow spreads. But I've narrowed it down here. So the Bengals are on the road at the Ravens in what is essentially a loser leaves town game, though the Bengals really need a lot of help anyway. I think taking points over a touchdown with the Bengals is a great bet. In a teaser with how high flying the offense can be, and expecting the Ravens to win by margin with how badly they've looked over the last couple months is just something I can't see. So I like the Bengals side in a teaser here. And then down in New Orleans, we have the Saints, 2.5 point underdogs at home against the Panthers. The Saints team's bad, but they're feisty. They just beat the Bucks this past week. I texted you yesterday. I woke up, didn't even realize that had happened. I just assumed the Bucks had won that game. So I could see a letdown here. I think at home, catching a touchdown in a teaser against a really mediocre Panthers team that I think is that Panthers, the Bears, there's a lot of teams this year that are just their record is much better than I think that their team is as a whole. So I like the Saints here as another leg. So I'm on the Bengals and the Saints, getting them both to plus 8.5 and a 6-point teaser this week.
All right. There we go. Love it, John. All right. So just to recap quickly, one game in college football, that is Washington State, Boise State. And you're taking Washington State. Sorry, no, Washington. Yeah. Washington against Boise State. And you're taking Washington -8 in that. In the NFL, it's Falcons at the Bucks under 44.5, Raiders at the Eagles under 38.5, Bills, Patriots under 50.5, Cardinals at the Texans taking Arizona plus 10. And if the longer you wait, you might get a bigger number there. And then a teaser, Bengals and Saints both at plus 8.5. Good stuff, John. Thanks a lot. We're going to say goodbye to you now. Enjoy your time in Boston.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right, that was The Grind with Gosu, and now it is story time. Pace, and you're always full of stories. You've always got lots to share, lots of stuff you want to talk about. But why don't we just stay with football, stay with the NFL, because a couple of decisions being questioned from a couple of coaches over the weekend. Imagine that, right? Here we are the following week, and we're questioning coaches' decisions. Why don't we start with the Raiders? And full disclosure, I was on the over. So I loved that field goal at the end. That won me my wager. Very happy with the kick. But a lot of people out there not happy. We saw some reaction online from Dave Portnoy, from people who haven't seen that yet. He kind of lost his mind. Pace, I think you were on the Raiders side too.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have a line, but In Play Live called out. Right. DraftKings had plus 9.5 at 9.0 or plus 800, which it's funny because people will think that we're biased now, Shane, because you had the over, the plus was called. They're like, oh, of course they think it's not rigged. But the actual reality of the situation is that when you know that a team will kick down 9, 10, or 11 in the dying seconds of a game, You look at the game differently. And this has happened before. Sean McVay did it. People said he rigged the game and it covered the spread. People said Todd Gurley rigged a game for not running into an end zone and kneeling down. And that was Sean McVay as well. There's a reason these things happen. And let's actually play devil's advocate for a second, right? If you're the Raiders and you do know the spread, what is wrong with trying to cover it if you didn't have money on the line, knowing that covering the spread for your bettors and fans is better for your organization than not?
Right. And it's a divisional game. Like, you want to compete. You want to do your absolute very best and have the scoreline reflect it.
Right. So now I'm not saying that's what happened. In fact, I know it's not what happened. But if it was the other side of the ball, the Broncos wouldn't have kicked to cover. They would have knelt out. Now, the Raiders are the team that's down. They're playing to the final whistle. And if there was 1 second left on the clock or more, once the field goal went through the uprights, they have the opportunity to try an onside kick and then throw a Hail Mary. And if there's no time left, kick the ball off and pooch it and force a fumble and run the fumble in. It's like statistically impossible, but you play to the last whistle in a 2-score game.
And crazy shit happens.
Exactly. You play to the last whistle in a 2-score game. Now, here's where you truly know that it's not rigged. Let me ask you a question, Shane. If they were down 12 and the spread was plus 9.5, would they have kicked?
No, probably not.
Probably not.
No.
There's no chance they would have kicked. They would have thrown a Hail Mary on that play, hoped to have 1 second left, and then tried an onside kick if the Hail Mary was successful.
And the field goal just wouldn't have helped them.
Right. So fans don't understand this. Bettors don't understand this. It is no rig job. What the rig job is you betting on a division rival in a multi-score pregame spread. Just stop doing that. Don't take Denver minus 8.5 against a division rival.
It's past that key number of 7. Like you're asking for trouble.
You are asking for trouble in a game like that. And we'll call it garbage time. We'll call it the garbage man. We'll call it junk. We'll call it soft coverage, whatever it is. The amount of times that a team has the ability to go score a freebie late in a game when they have looked terrible for the entirety of that game is so common. And not only that, in the last 2 seasons, the Raiders being one of the worst teams in the league, kind of game in, game out, season in, season out, they are garbage kings. And when you know coaching tendencies, so let's take a totally different example. Let's say it was the New England Patriots down 25. They're probably not going to try to go score late. It's a playoff team, right? They need to preserve their athletes for the playoffs. They need to move on to the next game.
They have a very conservative coach right now.
And it's not a 2-score game. It's a multi-score game. They probably wouldn't try. Now the Raiders are fucking 2-11 or whatever the hell it is that they are. They actually rarely have a 2-score game to be able to even have the chance to consider winning the game. And their season's done, but they're playing to the last whistle. They're trying to get some sort of momentum. Especially they had Kenny Pickett in. So they're thinking, our quarterback has been terrible all season long. He just got injured. Kenny Pickett's in. He's actually got a little bit of swag right now. He's moving the ball down the field, and he had done it on the previous drive as well. They want him to get reps in and get a score on the board, and they did.
And they did. And Pete Carroll came out and explained his decision-making. He actually was hoping to have a couple more seconds on the clock. He thought that the time actually should have been more like 10 seconds instead of 8 seconds or 4 seconds or whatever it was. He was hoping to have a few extra seconds on the clock. He just wasn't able to convince the refs that time should be there.
And during that time, he's trying to convince the refs that it should have been 8 seconds. And the reason why he said that is the time the flag is thrown is when the clock should stop. He's saying right when the play ended at 8 seconds or whenever it was. That's the time that we should have back on the clock. Well, that's happening. The field goal unit's already trotted out on the field.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Pull them off, take a delay of game, and then throw it? Like, no. Kick the field goal. If there's one, there's probably not going to be 1 second left anymore, but that's how it went down.
Exactly. He was just trying. He was trying to be competitive, and that's exactly what he said, and that's exactly what you expect. And that is, I think, the indication that it's not rigged. When a team says we are just trying to be competitive, That's a sign that, okay, everything is on the up and up here.
So if you guys want a little bit of entertainment relating to this, or if you want to chime in on the discussion because you disagree with me, you have a lot of supporters that disagree with me. You can click on our Instagram. It's at InPlayLive, and it is the reel that the cover is Dave Portnoy's face. And there are a ton of comments of people thinking I am the biggest moron on planet Earth for the rationale that I just gave you guys.
Hey,
so
you know what, though? If you know it's rigged, I always say just bet on the rigged side. It's easy. Yeah. Life's easy that way, man. Just bet on the rigged side.
Right. But again, think about it from this standpoint. If you know this going forward, the next time they kick and you have these crazy odds, you're going to see things just all of a sudden. It's like 20/20 vision. You're like, oh my God, not only did they kick, I made a shitload of money from them.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, another coach making a very questionable decision, and I think it cost them the game. I think we can say that single decision probably cost them the game. Yeah. Nick Sirianni, and this isn't the first time, Pace, that we brought this guy up on the podcast because he makes terrible decisions all the time. It's kind of what he does. And people will be like, well, he won a Super Bowl. They're the reigning champs. Doesn't stop him from making bad decisions. And we saw another one on Monday night there. Were you actually surprised by it? I wasn't surprised by it because he does it over and over again.
I'm not surprised, but there is an element to some of this stuff where it's like, how do you not learn from your mistakes? And the thing is that you could argue what you just said. It's like, okay, he's won a Super Bowl and clearly what he's doing is working. Well, it's actually not, because 3 seasons ago, he went to overtime twice in the same situation that happened on Monday Night Football this past week. He won both of those games, so no one cared. And we watched it all. It cost us money at the time. We watched it all and went, there will be a time that Sirianni loses a game because of this. And then last year it happened twice where he lost games. This year he nearly lost a game already because on 4th and 1, when it was an obvious punt, they snapped the ball. And what did they do? Threw a bomb to AJ Brown. What do they do this time? They throw a bomb to AJ Brown. And now this is the breakdown that actually matters in this situation. Okay. There was a throw to Saquon Barkley where everyone blamed Saquon Barkley. Do you remember this one, Shane? This was the game they lost. It was last season. Saquon Barkley rolled out. It was a perfect pass and he dropped it. And people were losing it that Saquon dropped it, but they shouldn't have thrown the ball in the first place, because when they handed the ball off, it would have been a running clock, leaving their opponents less time. Instead, they stopped the clock for their opponent and they came back and won that football game as a result of the decision making, not the drop. Yeah, did the drop matter? Sure. Right. Now, fast forward to Monday Night Football. Eagles are in the driver's seat, right? They were sitting there tied 16-16, and they get the ball back and they're at their own 40 with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. So this is a position where you have to accomplish 2 things as a team to win the football game. Number 1, you need to move the football into field goal range. And number 2, you need to leave your opponent with no time left on the clock. So the Eagles did one of those 2 things very effectively, but they did it at the expense of the time on the clock, because what they did was they threw the ball and had 2 massive plays to basically get them right down into the red zone with no time coming off the clock. Now that puts the Chargers in a position to start using their timeouts, knowing that the Eagles are likely to score on the drive. So now that we're in that position, where you're in the red zone and we're rolling under the 3-minute mark, you have to make the Chargers use their timeouts and continue to advance the ball. They were 1 first down away from taking 2 or 3 knees and kicking a field goal and winning the game 19-16. Now, that's not exciting for fans. So this goes hand in hand with some of the things that we just talked about in the Raiders game. People are like, no, throw it to AJ Brown. I have him on my fantasy team and I've got the over and I've got the spread extended up to 7 or whatever the hell it is. And they think that is what makes correct decisions. But what the Eagles did for that whole drive, they took the clock down from 3:30 to 2:30.
Yeah.
1 minute was used on that final drive, and they let the Chargers keep a timeout because they threw 2 incomplete passes. Now, the one throw was a great throw to AJ Brown in the end zone. This is the thing. If he caught that football, if AJ Brown took that touchdown in, and the Eagles went up 7 points. The Chargers still had 2 minutes and 30 seconds with a timeout to drive the field, 4 downs all the way down the field, plenty of time. And then they can also opt to go for 2 if they get the touchdown to try to end the game right then and there. So regardless of the catch being made or not made, Sirianni and Hurts are making horrendous decisions at the end of football games because they're not making their opponents use their timeouts and they're not working on the clock. Had they have worked on the clock, that game was over. 19-16, Eagles win. Instead, they kick a field goal, Chargers kick one back, Chargers get the ball in overtime and walk it off with Dicker the kicker.
Yeah, and big pick there to finish the game. But by the Chargers on defense. And as we mentioned off the top of the show too, that other game marked by that incredible sequence of events where Hurts turned the ball over twice. So that's a lot. A lot of memories from that game that we'll hang on to going forward. Okay, Pace. People want to know about your documents. Let's start with the medical stuff. Do you have any kind of notarized document saying you are not a problem gambler? Have you obtained that?
I haven't gone down the path of fulfilling that sportsbook's needs. I've gone down the legal path at this time, and the sportsbook has not responded. I've uploaded all legal documents and demand letters to them, and they have basically just declined everything and said that this is what's required. Here's the thing, though. People might think that something like this is super shady, out of character. Why would Pace play there? All that kind of stuff. Shane, this one's close to home for you. This is the regulated market in Ontario, Poker Stars. Okay. Yep. They asked a player that is connected to In Play Live for a screen. This is their proof of deposit, a screenshot of online banking summary page that includes the Interact e-transfer logo and the Interact logo as a payment method with the URL visible. So if any of you are in Canada and use Interact as a deposit method, you will know that when you look at your bank statement, the Interact e-transfer logo is not on any document ever. So one of two things
happens. It does say Interact e-transfer, but there's no logo.
There's no logo. It says the logo must be displayed. This is from Poker Stars regulated, right? So in a circumstance like this, the sportsbook is doing something where they are seeing, I think, how far you're willing to go when it comes to your documents. So you go to look for them, you send some stuff. They're like, no, that's not good enough. It doesn't have the logo. They decline it, right? And then maybe you go and put the logo on the document yourself when they already have the previous
to doctor
version,
it,
right? And then maybe they say that it's fabricated and declined. Who knows? I don't know. But in this particular circumstance, the player said, this document doesn't exist. I'm going to the regulator. And before maybe even an hour had gone by, the full balance was paid out to them.
Yeah, that's what I tell people all the time. Like, you're having an issue with a sportsbook. At least this is what I tell people in Ontario. You don't even go to the regulator. Yes, but just tell them that you're going to the regulator, demand the complaint number, and almost 90% of the time that is enough for them to be like, all right, forget it. This isn't worth our hassle. This person knows what they're doing. They're familiar. They've been through this process before, and they do have a legal support system with the regulator that they can run. And we just don't want to deal with that hassle. That's what the sportsbook's approach. So
right.
Very kudos to that person for going down that route. And look at that, bang, they get their money.
Right. So it doesn't matter if it's the crazy medical stuff that I shared last week, which is, Shane, for now, we're just going to say it's a work in progress. The legal avenue has been approached, and the book has basically declined all of that information. So we'll see where I go with that. But even at the regulated level, these types of traps and tricks are happening. And as players, we kind of have to band together and make sure that our stories are told. So if anyone does have a story that they think should be broadcast, please let us know, comment below. And that's something that we can look into further and at least get your message out there, because at a minimum, we would want to out that sports book so that other players don't play there if they're causing problems.
Yeah. And I'll just mention too, Poker Stars, you get limited on Poker Stars, you get limited on all the other ones too that they're affiliated with. So I just word of caution there as somebody who's lived through that experience.
Right on.
Okay. Pacer, you've got you want to talk about some parlays? You were talking about parlays in your primer this week. What's going on over there? Are you making some massive parlays?
No, not making massive parlays, but I think sometimes the parlay can be overlooked on the winning side of the sports betting world. So the winning side of the sports betting world understands that in general, parlays are for suckers because they have the highest house edge. And if you guys don't know how that works, it's really quite simple. If you have a 5% hold or handle, a 5% hold or edge that the house has on any one particular bet, on average, the player that takes that bet for $100 is going to lose $5 over time, whether the bet wins or loses. When you parlay two of those together, the house edge compounds. So that's why sportsbooks love pushing parlays, and they'll even do a little parlay boost because they know that their edge is still just so superior in those circumstances. Now, the flip side of that is that if you have an edge as a player, so let's say I have a 2% edge on a wager and I have a 2% edge on another wager, those edges compound if you parlay them. So the 2 and 2 can make a 4% edge for the player. Now your expected growth on your bankroll goes down because there's more variance. But that doesn't mean the expected value doesn't go up. So you can use parlays for your benefit, and there's a few ways to do it. The first is looking as square as you possibly can, so that sports books will give you a longer leash. The second is the ability to get more money down. You might have a situation where the sports book will only take $500 on a certain line, but they'll take another $500 if you parlay it with something else, right? So how you handle that and manage that as a player is a major factor. And also that does erode the edge that you might have. So let's say that you believe there's an edge on a bet at the price of minus 125 or 1.8, and the current line is minus 110. Or 1.91, and you parlayed it with someone, use that 5% as an example. If the edge was at 1.8 and the actual line is at 1.91 and you added a parlay to it that doesn't have an added edge to it, you just took your effective odds from 1.91 to closer to about 1.85 or minus 115, minus 117 range. So as a player, that is a major part of, I guess, the cat and mouse game of how you can take a bet that still has an edge and potentially not get clipped through using a parlay, taking your edge down, but also perhaps preserving your account, and based on that, then increasing the longevity of your account, and maybe even increasing the edge that you have long term. So it can be pretty effective. But yeah, anyways, for me, what I've been doing is a lot of the stuff related to player props, Shane, rather than just taking the single, which can be a bit of a sore thumb, looking at correlated bets relating to that particular player. So Shane, I'll give you a really good example of this where it's just like smack you in the face, no brainer. Okay. Let's say we are late in an NFL game and it's 2 or 3 more yards for a player to cover that we like. So it might be the last drive of the game, right? The yards will be, let's say, minus 115 for that player, right? For their over. The receptions will be minus 125. So if they got a catch for negative yards, the receptions would win and the yards would lose, right? Yep. But in general, we're taking the risk that if they get a catch, it's going to be over 3 yards. And minus 115 here, minus 125 for the catch. But if you parlay them together, all of a sudden it will be like minus 110 or minus 105 or even 2.0 or plus 100. So the bet is the same. You can't win one without the other, but just sticking the 2 legs together, all of a sudden, not only did you get better odds, you also put yourself in the bucket of a same game parlay when you made the bet. So I am constantly looking at what types of parlays I can build that will create the same or a similar bet at hopefully better odds, increasing my edge while still preserving my account by taking myself out of the single bucket and into
by
the
being an
SGP
bucket. Player.
Yeah. So I was super fortunate on Sunday Night Football. I built the same game parlay on Woody Marks for $500, and it came through for $10,000 payout.
Whoa, holy, that's a massive payout on a $500 bet. So wait, what did you take there on Marks? You must have taken some alts
everything.
Or something.
You just piece all his stuff together.
You just pieced everything Woody Marks related.
It was largely carries. And I don't know what he was projected for carries in the game, maybe 11, and I had him up to like 22 or something like that, and got lucky and it came through. But I wasn't doing that thinking like, oh, I'm making this, plus EV bet. That was more of the let's put some. I just had a big run of player props, as we did on Sunday, Shane. And you see the balance refresh, and I'm like, okay, let's build something that makes me look as square as possible. And then that came through too. And then they had enough after that.
That's it. We're out of here. Get this guy out of here. Winning that Woody Marks bet. That's awesome though. So you were taking the alts on his carries combined with something else, his yards, I suppose.
Oh yeah, pretty much everything to do with, and you can get really nitty gritty, right? You can get the first half carries, quarter yards,
right? Yeah, the quarter stuff, and
So and that's the thing though. If you look at things where you go, I like this bet. Just try to see if there's some stuff that maybe don't add a significant risk to the bet, but do boost the odds. That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Right. Boost the odds, but also the EV coming in the form of you not falling in the straight bucket, but the SGP bucket that books will put people in.
Yeah, and this is something that I haven't hit yet, but I do think it falls into a similar category of like, it's like these negatively correlated bets. So if you take like a really good example last night, Shane, this bet would not have won, but the Chargers had Omarion Hampton come back at running back, and we actually won on his carries live.
Because that game went to OT.
We won because correct. He didn't have we needed one more carry for like a whole quarter, and he covered it in overtime, right? But for example, Hampton's the lead back. He hasn't played for however long it's been. And then you go, you know what? He's going to be limited on carries. Let's take his under on carries, and let's take Vidal's over on carries. Vidal's alternate overs on carries all came through. And Hampton was the lower back. His over actually ended up hitting. But if you took his under and the game didn't go to overtime, you would have had an alternate over on Vidal, and you would have had the under on Hampton. The odds on parlays like that, Shane, they're astronomical. Hundreds to one. Wow. Hundreds to one potentially, depending on how you build it. So, like take a guy like Jonathan Taylor, and I'm not saying him specifically, but just take a key guy like that, Bijan, Taylor, perhaps Rico Dowdle, some of the really high carry guys in the league, and you go, what if he got hurt? And this is like small money. And then you look and you go, how often does our starting running back actually go down in a game where the backup comes in and just gets the workload? Building parlays like that pay like hundreds and hundreds to one, they happen. So you have to manage your money. You have to know that you're not going to hit this one and you're not going to hit the next one, but you might hit a couple in the season. If you know what you're doing, you do it strategically. Again, expected growth super low, but expected value is actually decent on these bets. And then just having fun with it and hoping that creates some account longevity.
Yeah, no, great advice there for how to do parlays kind of the right way. A lot of people out there doing it the wrong way. And I think generally, sharp bettors give the advice, don't do parlays for a reason, because they know the public, generally speaking, isn't doing them the right way or with the right intention or understand the logic behind them. But in this case, I think you've explained it well there. So good stuff. All right, that was story time. I think it is now time to move on to our news and notes segment, Pace, where we touch on stuff happening in the world of sports betting and things making waves in the world there. And this one's sort of hitting close to home for me, near and dear to my heart. And just one story this week, but I think it's a big one, and a big one for our audience out there. Kalshi, an exchange, everybody getting pretty familiar with it. If you haven't heard of it by now, it's a prediction market, as they call it, operating in the US. We don't have it here in Canada, but we do have SX that we have access to, a sponsor of the show, a crypto betting exchange. So we're quite familiar with exchanges. We're big fans of exchanges. But here's something that's happening with Kalshi. It has reached deals with CNBC and CNN. Details of these financial deals haven't been disclosed yet, But the idea here is that Kalshi will be providing data and information to the news about what's happening in the world and what people think is going to happen in the world. So, of course, on these prediction markets, you can, place wagers on all kinds of things, not sports related, politics, weather, news events, all sorts of stuff. And so this partnership, is going to see them be essentially a data provider to the news.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting there. Here's what CNBC President Casey Sullivan said in a statement about the deal that it reached with Kalshi. Prediction markets are rapidly shaping how investors and business leaders think about important events. Kalshi's data will serve as a powerful complement to CNBC's reporting and help people stay better informed about the world around them. All right. Very kind of interesting aspect to this. So for me, Pace, as many of you out there listening, for those longtime listeners that have been with us for a while now, they know that I'm a journalist. I've been a journalist for almost 20 years now. And I've been betting on sports even longer than that. And so these are two aspects of my life, Pace,
colliding,
that have, been big parts of my life, but separate for a long, long time.
Right.
I think this podcast was probably the first time that I really sort of merged the two in any kind of meaningful way. Always sort of had them as one is work and one is fun. They live in separate parts of my life. And now to sort of see something like this, at first I'm like, really cool, and then I'm like, oh my god, I see a lot of problems with this. There could be some significant issues. But my two longtime passions merging, I mean, it's pretty cool, and I've had a lot of fun with this podcast and what we do here, and that's great. But I don't know how this is going to play out. We talk about polling, predictions. How does the actual reporting of the news impact the reality? We live in this world so deeply divided, a post-truth world, that we've heard quite a bit. So how is what's happening in the betting markets going to shape how the news is reported? That's a bit of a concern that I have there. But then again, Pace, we've seen financial reporting. It's been around forever. BNN, Bloomberg, Report on Business, etc. Right? You've got actual reporting, real-time news that does impact financial markets. And it's this sort of cycle of what's happening in the markets gets reported, has further impact on the markets. So that's been around for a long, long time. I'm just really sort of interested to see how this kind of plays out. Will this information be used, as the intent in that kind of business reporting is that the information will be shared with the hopes that the audience can use it to make sound financial decisions, right? That's sort of the whole, impetus behind it. Will the same thing be happening when people are watching CNN's weather outlook to place a bet on how much snow is going to fall in Denver? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if the right intentions are there, or polling is going to be something when we see the next election. Hey, this poll brought to you by Kalshi, and currently the president is sitting at 60% to win the election based on Kalshi's information right now. That'll be really interesting. And the other aspect, Pace, that I want to get back to, that is this idea that sometimes perception changes objective reality, and we're starting to see that more and more. And I think the most recent example, or at least one of the clearest examples that comes to mind, is something we've talked about on the show here before, Pace, and Zelensky's suit. I want to go back to that because I think that was one where something happened. People took a bet. Will he wear a suit within a certain amount of time? He showed up wearing something that we think was a suit that was then later decided not a suit. And it's sort of like sometimes the observer affects the objective reality. And who is the observer, and who's the chief observer? in that situation. In that situation, it was Polymarket and a very, very small group of people who were the observers who defined what reality was. And I'm worried that we could start to see these very, very small groups of people defining what reality is. There's already people in the White House right now, politicians in Washington that will still dispute the results of the 2020 election where Trump lost and Biden won. And they still want to sit there and have an argument that no, Trump actually won that election. It's like people can't agree on facts these days anymore. And so what is this kind of a partnership going to look like? Anyway, those are some of the things that went through my head when I saw this.
Well, no, it's an interesting thought. The other thought that crossed my mind there that you didn't bring up is like, we have ESPN Bet, now the Score Bet, right? Owned by Disney, partners with the leagues. So we can't get away from the betting rhetoric. Is the betting rhetoric now spilling into mainstream news outlets unrelated to sports?
Wow. Are we going to see the SGP on the weather outlook in the news segment?
Well, I will say, speaking of parlays, when it comes to exchanges, if you have not checked out SX and you are a user of Kalshi, I think they're a great 1-2 punch because there are some significant advantages to placing your bets on SX, especially if you are doing any type of parlay. You're going to get better odds than the sports books. And there's a lot more that you can do on SX that Kalshi doesn't necessarily have. And there's probably a lot more that you can do on Kalshi that SX doesn't necessarily have. So when it comes to sports betting, I always like to have as many options as possible. Yeah, but are we going to see CNN say live odds on Kalshi are X? That is inherently promoting gambling. Whether it's about sports or not, where we go, okay, we're watching the game, we're being told these predictions from some guy who's never placed a bet in his life on for what to take on FanDuel. You flip the channel, they're telling you what to take on DraftKings, and you flip the channel to the news, and they're telling you, what you can bet on Kalshi. It's like, holy smokes, like it's the gambling takeover.
It really is. It's a takeover, and I think Kalshi likes to use different language around this, right? It's not gambling, right? It's investing. Right. It's not sports betting. It's prediction markets, right. And like this whole, shift in language that we're trying to see is just as somebody sitting on the sidelines just watching, it's just kind of funny,
I've seen some of that language used before, but it's in Play Live. We say turning bettors into investors, but hopefully there's some merit to it.
Well, exactly, right. And in some cases there might be, and in a lot of cases, I think with the general public there won't be. And what kind of education is going to be provided, right, when it comes to this kind of thing, from CNN and CNBC? I don't know. Maybe there will be, maybe there won't. It's hard to think. And then on this side of the border in Canada, it's like, well, are we going to start to see the CBC forever has been a big money loser. Could the CBC start getting involved in something like this as a way to kind of generate more eyeballs on it, and two, another form of revenue? Could we see something like that? A public broadcaster tied to a prediction market? I don't know. Maybe it's happening. It's a crazy world we're living in. All right. That's all I got for news this week. So Pace, that brings us to our final segment of the show, upcoming hype. What are you looking forward to this weekend, this week ahead? What are you excited for?
I think the first thing is we're heading into the holidays and the holiday season, right? And bowl season, and the wrap up of the regular season of NFL. Fantasy football playoffs are here. So there's a lot of stuff in the world of sports that we can get caught up in and excited for. I think that there's some pretty important fantasy matches going down, on Christmas Day, as we have that Thursday triple header. So I'm looking forward to the holidays, and I love the sports around the holidays, but I think it's a good time to give everyone a reminder that there's nothing wrong with compartmentalizing sports and sports betting and the time that you spend with your family and loved ones. So now is a good time to cherish what you have in life, not what you don't have, right? Tell the people that you love them. Give your dogs, your cats, whomever, a big squeeze, all that kind of stuff, and truly appreciate what you have. Put the phones away, put the betting away for, whatever time it is that you block off to do those types of things in this holiday season. Appreciate what you have.
Oh, great message there, Pace. I think that'll resonate with a lot of people out there. But you kind of stole my upcoming hype, because this week in my main fantasy league, the league I've been in now, I don't know, we're going on like 15, 16 years, but league I've been in, since I started playing fantasy sports, is the playoffs, and I've made the playoffs, and the beginning of playoffs in fantasy is just awesome. Like, you've made it this far. Now it's just, if you could just win this week, you move on to the next week, and you could, the championship starts to feel like it could be real. So very much looking forward to that. And I've also got to take a bit of a glug, because last week I said I was super excited for the big pools card, the big pools ticket, but I forgot that there were still bye weeks. And so I only had 13 games on the card. I lost anyway, it doesn't matter. But there were only 13 games on the ticket. But I double checked this week. We've got a 15-game ticket.
Okay.
So very much looking forward to that.
Okay.
And fingers crossed I can make it to Monday night. If Pace, I make it to that Monday night, that Monday is my birthday as well. So that would just be insane. But let's get there.
So that's December 15th.
That's December 15th.
Shane, you share a birthday with two very important beings in my life.
Who?
My dogs.
Your dogs? No way. Both of them?
They turned 10 on Monday.
Wow. There you go. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah. We rescued them from Puerto Vallarta, so we don't know their exact birth date. But the vets essentially did, one of these, this is how old we think they are, and they were puppies. So we kind of backtracked, and we chose December 15th as their birthday.
There you go.
9.5 years ago when we got them.
Hey, that's awesome.
And we've stuck to it. So it might be closer to a birth week or a birth month.
Right.
But December 15th is what we went with.
Great day that you picked there. Love it. Love it. Hey, and your dogs are the same age as my dog. My dog's also 10, turned 10 this calendar year. But back
there you go. So there you go. Many years ahead.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. 10-year-old dogs, they start to, they change, somewhere around 8, 9, they start to do a little less. I put my dog to work too before. Like, my dog was a real working dog. I had him pulling sleds, pulling the girls in wagons and that kind of thing. But he definitely looked at me one day and said, "I'm done with this." There was a moment where he just gave me a look, was like, "I'm not doing this. I'm done." And it was about 2.5 years ago.
Smart. They become a little bit more stubborn. It's like, you don't get to choose what we do anymore. Like, I have a say, and I'm not doing this.
I'm not doing this. Yep. Yeah. And I don't want it. I was like, all right, that's it. You're retired.
Love it. It's a plus EV move from the dog.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, a lot of fun this week chatting with you, Pace, as always. But I think that just about does it. So to you, to John, who's out there enjoying Boston, and to all of you tuning in, sports bettors from around the world, keep beating those Bucks. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join in Play Live, use promo code Behind the Lines.